This video was supposed to be titled 10 Best Books I Read in 2024, except as I was making this list, I realized I was just adding books to the bottom to get to the number 10. And we aren't about that life anymore. So it is a number less than 10, but I can guarantee you these are the best books that I read this year. These books are in no particular order. I think I put them in the order that I read them, but it is not a ranking of this one's better than that one. So let's just get started. First up is One Day by David Nichols. This book follows our two main characters through one day of their entire lives, from when they meet in college to the very, very end of the book. It is kind of a romance story, but realistically, it's a story of friendship, about growing up, about growing apart, and just all of the things that come with that. I loved this book. When I say this book broke me, that is not an exaggeration. It was fantastic. I loved it. In fact, I don't even have my copy to show you because I lent it out. It is so good. So good, in fact, that I will be reading his other book, You Are Here, in 2025, because if a romance book can destroy me just as much as One Day did, the author is 100% worth my time. There is a show and a movie, One Day, based off of the book. Please do yourself a favor and read the book first before you watch or read either of the show or movie. They were good, but just read the book first. Next up is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Another one that, because I loved it so much, I will also be reading the next book in the coming year, which I think is the highest compliment you can pay to an author, is you love their book so much that you will now be reading either the next book in the series or any other book that they have written. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is a fantasy book. We are following Emily, obviously, as she does some research on the Fae, these elusive mystical creatures that are kind of terrorizing this town that she's doing her research in. And so she's trying to figure out what is going on. And she just does a lot of research on the Fae because she's writing a book. We also have the side character, Wendell Bambley, I think his name is. Wendell Bambleby, who is, I believe he's technically her research partner, but out of the two, Emily is definitely the serious one, and Wendell is smart, but really he's just kind of good looking and here for a good time. So he's got that charisma that everybody loves, and Emily is definitely just here for the knowledge and here for the research, and their banter is amazing. I loved it. I loved this book. I bought this copy after I read it because I just wanted to own a copy of it because I know this is a book that I will be rereading. So if you enjoy fantasy stories, if you enjoy stories of Fae, if you enjoy stories of smart women, and if you enjoy stories with banter, I think you would really, really enjoy this one. Next up, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, another author in which I will be reading more of their books next year. And honestly, I only put 5, I would say, modern novels on my book list for 2025. So 3 of them are taken up by the 3 authors that I just showed you. I think that really speaks to the books that I'm talking about right now. In Babel, we are following our main character, Robin Swift, who's basically been trained his entire life to be a Babel scholar, which is this prestigious language university in Oxford. But Babel is not only this center for translation, it also has to do with magic, and they use silver. Is it silver? Yes, they use these enchanted silver bars to do everything, and the silver bars are encoded with different phrases, and the phrases have to be spoken in particular languages. So it was very, very cool. I thought this book was great if you enjoy some sort of magic system, if you are into languages, if you're into academia. This was just fantastic. If I had to rank them, this would probably be in the top 3 if I had to really, really rank them, but I loved it so, so much. If you haven't read it, I know it's been out for quite a while, but if you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend. Again, I'll be reading other R.F. Kuang books next year, and so I'll let you know how those go. Then we have the Mistborn trilogy. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about these, but that is because I loved them so much. No best books of the year video for me this year would be complete without talking about Mistborn. Brandon Sanderson, honestly and truly, is now a must-buy author for me just because of this series. I thought his world building was fantastic. His characters were well developed. And the books, well, really the entire series had so many components. You were following so many different characters, but I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel Like I couldn't keep track of where the characters were, and there were just so many storylines interwoven throughout the entire book. I just felt like I had a little bit for everyone. It had really the magic system was well developed. There was a little bit of romance in throughout the series. There was, you know, obviously this hero. There was the politics of a rebellion. Like it was fantastic. The whole series was just fantastic. The first book out of the three, I will say, took me the most to get into because there is just so much world building in the beginning, because obviously this is the first book. But just get through the first 100 pages, know that you're building the world, know that he's developing all of these characters, and I promise you it will pay off in the end. And the nice part about Mistborn 2 is this book was written so it could continue into a series, but also so it could stand alone. So it ends in a way that it could stand alone. Then as soon as you start this one, excuse my language, shit just hits the fan. These two books were just, I mean, Hero of Ages, I can't even really talk to you about it because that would give away the entire series. Just please read it. Just please read it. That's all I'm telling you. All I'm telling you is if you like fantasy, if you have read any other Sanderson books and you liked his writing, if you love series with well-developed characters, very well-developed worlds, you have to give Mistborn a try. You just have to. And then the final book that made it to this list was, I don't have a copy of it, but it was The Enchanted Hour by Megan Cox Gordon. I think this book, I just recently read it, and the reason I wanted to put it on here is because as a nonfiction book, I felt as though this book really made the most impact on me and just changed the way I do certain things. And not too much. Really, the premise of this book is just talking about why you should be reading aloud to your children. And I do read aloud every day. My kid gets a book read to them multiple times a day. Sorry if you can hear my dogs playing in the background. But my kid gets a book read to them multiple times a day. So, guys, I know it's important for them to be read aloud to, but really just putting that in writing and then just seeing the research and the effects of that just really solidified that for me, and also made me realize how important it is, not just while they're little, but also when they get older and older and older, and even for adults, how important it is for us to be read aloud to. If you have family, or if you have children, or if you're around children, I think that this is a great one for you to read. And that's it. Those are the best books that I read this year. In the spirit of not wanting to just give you a random list, just to give you a list of 10 books, I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you found a book, and if you've been thinking about reading any of the books that I've mentioned, let this be your sign to please go ahead and make 2025 the year that you read it. Happy reading.